Thank you all for joining us for today's session. It's creating magical moments, skills to build trust to community in online and hybrid classrooms. My name is Chris Guile, and I'm honored to introduce our speaker, Dr. Gay Teresa Johnson. Dr. Johnson is a professor of African American Studies, Chicano Studies at UCLA, and she writes and teaches on race and racism, cultural politics, and freedom struggles. She's also a Veteran Education Summit speaker, so we're really excited to have her here. I'm just gonna start us off with a couple very quick technical notes before leaving the stage. Number one, today's session will involve breakout rooms. If you run into any issues whatsoever on the technical front, please feel free to reach out to me directly via the Zoom chat. Number two, we have closed captions. Feel free to click the CC button at the bottom of your screen to turn on subtitles if you'd like to. And lastly, if you have any questions for our speaker, we do hope to have some time for Q&A. Feel free to drop those questions in the chat. And we'll kind of speak to Gay, get the conversation going as the session wears on after the initial presentation. That's all for me. I'm gonna hop off the stage. Gay, please take it away, and everyone else, please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited to do this, and I know we have an hour, and I want to say we only have an hour because this kind of conversation becomes extremely exciting for me very quickly. And so I just want to say a heartfelt welcome, and also a thank you to all of I see 131 and climbing participants, and I'm very, very honored that you chose to come and be in community with me today. One of the things that I think is really important for us to do, as we are all online, hello from sunny Florida, hello from sunny Ventura, California, everybody, is to like bring into this space a sense of calm. Now, a lot of us are multitasking. Many of us have children at home. We've got a lot of things going on. This morning, I was in a 2-hour meeting with the center that I'm associate director of. And you know, I had some other things to do. So I was listening, but like everybody else, I'm in this human moment where I've got, you know, 11 other things going on. So I am recognizing that that is probably the case here too, to some extent, although I will say, I hope that people can be as present as possible, but as a way to sort of model how we can bring our students into these spaces in the most calm, open, and present way, which every study shows is the best way for them to learn. I want to invite everybody to take just a moment away from everything that you might be doing right now. And I assure you, it's only a few seconds. And I invite you, if it is accessible to you, to put your feet flat on the floor, to rest your hands, to put your chin parallel to the floor, and to, you know, make your back nice and relaxed. And I invite you to just take one deep breath in your nose and let it out of your mouth. And just pay attention to what's going on with your body. Did your shoulders come down a little bit? And maybe we need one more. So let's do that one more time. Inhale and exhale. And that's all it takes for us to all be here. Welcome, everyone. I want to share with you a Google Doc that is in the chat now. You can just click on that link. Please let me know if you're having any trouble. I made it accessible to everyone. All of the things that I am doing here today, I am inviting you to take, share, copy, paste. This is a community and this is shared knowledge. And so I'm asking that everybody please feel free to use this idea of having what I call a community board. This is our community board for this session, creating magical moments, skills to build trust and community in online or hybrid classrooms. I invite you to look at the way that I am presenting as perhaps a potential model, if it is something that appeals to you, as a way of getting curious about how we can be more effective, but also how we can enter into our classrooms and feeling our best. So in my community board, which I do often now for talks, and I often do this instead of PowerPoints, I include kind of a description of what's going on. So even if I'm doing a syllabus overview, I'll have the community board and I'll put the class description as the first thing. You see here the workshop description, just to remind us all of why we're here. And today we're here because I believe that online teaching requires a lot of magic. We have been a year and a half. Remember when we thought it was going to be a couple of weeks that we were going to be online? And here we are now, we're a year later, and we are still here. And so we know that once we get all of our things set up to be online, and we did all of these things to get the tools, check the boxes and all of that, then what? And this is the thing that I think now we have a little breathing space to affect, which is how do you then get in here and make something happen that is going to feel incredibly effective and good to you as you teach? How do you recover some of whatever magic that you felt brought you into the classroom in the first place in an online scenario or in a hybrid classroom? And that's what this is about. A lot of us are looking for toolkits and ways of doing things. I have some of those for you, but more than anything, this is an opportunity for us as educators to recover why we came into this profession in the first place, even though the scenario has changed so much. So on this community board, I have several parts. So part one, welcome into this community space. We did a little bit of breathing there. And this is something I do with my students as well. I often do some kind of mindfulness practice because, again, no matter what your background or beliefs, every study shows that mindfulness practice in the classroom is incredibly effective for getting students calm, centered, and ready to learn. And so even if it's just a couple of breaths, I noticed as I was just like looking through some of the pictures here that folks, came in looking great. You all look great, those of you who choose to be on camera. But after we did the breaths, I noticed a little bit more of a relaxed posture. And this is what we want. So I often also, because I come from an educator background, but also I do a lot of work in communities, I create shared agreements. And this is really important for classroom spaces. A lot of times we might be used to, as participants in higher education, ground rules for engagement in the classroom. But what if we were calling them shared agreements instead, where everyone is seen, as many people as possible, people feel heard, but also are able to co-create an environment where education and mutual education and learning is possible. So here are some of my shared agreements. Take care of your body in this space. Do what you need to do to stay present and engaged. What are those things? Sometimes we don't think about them. We're going from thing to thing to thing. What do I need to be present and engaged? I need a glass of water. I need good circulation in the room. I need a quiet environment if I can find one, but sometimes there are children at home and I try to hold that for myself and everyone else with grace. And once you give permission for that in your classrooms or whoever you're talking to, then people feel a little more relaxed. Yes, that's my situation. I might have a room full of people here, but this is being held with grace. Listen with active curiosity. I teach classes on history, race, current events, politics, and this is something that's really important for me. And I encourage you to think about it for you, because many of you may be in other kinds of disciplines where active curiosity is something that is really important, but also isn't necessarily kind of a shared agreement for good communication. I do think active curiosity is important for every classroom, but I also have to ask my students, because a lot of times there are current events that are happening that are very triggering for them. And I ask them, just as a kind of best practice, let's pause if we feel something is like, or we get excited about something. Let's pause and get curious when we're feeling activated by something. Let's just pause and get curious. Instead of not saying anything and not making that a shared agreement. Because a lot of times when you don't say anything, students everybody, it's not just students, everybody comes into a classroom space like, well, I can't wait for somebody to say this one thing because I have something that I want to say. Those are all natural human tendencies. But if we set the tone, and what a lot of us call setting the container, saying, we're here to be curious, to when we get activated by something in a good way, in a bad way, etc. So also leaning into discomfort. Things that we might talk about today or in a classroom might be uncomfortable for certain people, and kind of like, challenge yourself, right? cultivate compassion. So again, coming back to the very first one, taking care of ourselves and others in these spaces. We all have different kind of contexts and situations that we're learning and teaching it. And then moving towards understanding the difference between intent and impact. This is something that, again, creates a very positive learning community in a classroom, is that you may be like saying all the right things and intending for it to be a certain way, but it might be received in a different way. So kind of understanding there's a difference there between these two things. Embrace humor, very important for me, because I like to keep it as light as possible because I get into heavy topics often. And then understanding that we're all learning together, including me. The kind of traditional way of being in the classroom has always been that the professor is the authority figure in all things, that we just come into the classroom to download our expertise on these fresh young minds, right? But what if we had space for additional, like more expansive and imaginative thinking about what the classroom can be about? What if we said, we're all learning together. I'm gonna make mistakes, you're gonna make mistakes, but we're here together and I'm here to hold the space. That's my job as teacher, facilitator, holder of this space. And if people have additions, you all have editing access. You are welcome to put them right here under part 1, welcome into this community space, add your own agreements or things that you use in your classroom. Please feel free, because from here on out, you will be able to access this link anytime you like and take from this any resources that you find, and we're gonna put them together as a community on here. So now we're into part 2. Now, if we were in person, even if we had 262 people in the room, it would be pretty fun. I can't even recall what it's like to be in a room that big with no masks and everybody talking to each other and getting close and shaking hands and not washing hands and all that. I can't even recall. I would ask people to like pair and share, turn to the person next to you. And I usually ask students to do something like kind of silly, like I'll say, tell them your name, where you're from, and what you had for breakfast, something like that. To like kind of, and if you didn't have breakfast, how are you going to take care of yourself as the day goes by? But I wanted to ask you all, because we're all such pros here, I want to ask you, what is your pedagogical superpower? What is your pedagogical superpower? So what's your superpower as a teacher? So instead of getting up and talking to each other, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and it's just going to be a really quick thing. We're going to do probably 5 or 6 people per. We're going to do about 10 minutes. Is that good, Chris? And we will do 10 minutes. So make sure that somebody's sort of keeping time and keeping the conversation moving. I want to know what everybody in the chat, in the breakout room, should share what your pedagogical superpower is. Your name, where you're from, and your pedagogical superpower.
Awesome.
I'll see you in a few minutes.
Thanks so much, Kay. We're going to get those breakout rooms started. My colleague Becca is behind the scenes organizing all of that. And please do open the link, which is available in the chat, to kind of keep track of where we're at. So we can answer this question of what is your pedagogical superpower in groups. Becca, feel free to start splitting folks up into the various groups.
Great, I see people coming back. Wonderful. Okay, numbers are climbing. Let's get everybody back in here.
What's that?
Okay. All right, it's nice to have people back. I'm going to put this again. I'm going to put the Google Doc in the chat in case people missed it before. We're still getting folks back here. Well, let's start with this. Would people be willing to share? And it's going to be rapid fire chat here, but we're just going with the flow. This is part of holding our space as educators as well. And I want to ask you this question before we start with this chat question. Well, I'm so glad that was fantastic. Yeah. What would it feel like if we entered into these online and hybrid classrooms, even like with all the anxieties that we may have around online learning, or just the way the world has changed so quickly, friends? What if we were able to enter into that space fairly, as worry-free as possible? Just like marinate in that feeling for a moment. Like, I know there's a lot of but hold on, but wait a minute, but what if you could do that? What would that feel like? So I just invite you to say in the chat, give me one word in the chat. What would it feel like to step into that space, calm and confidence? Engagement, yes. Freedom, empowering, yes. Family, joy, empowering, yes. Uplifted, yes. Free and fun, oh yes. Open to sharing, authenticity. Look at all these amazing words here. Community, comfortable. Can I repeat the question? Yes. What if, despite all of the stresses of the past year and a half, the anxieties that we have about teaching online, the anxieties of the world changing so much, especially for those of us who've been doing this a long time. What if we could just step into this space, despite all of those, free of those, and feel calm and comfortable? And somebody asked me, what does it mean to hold your space? How do you feel when you feel self-possessed? You're holding your space. You're facilitating a space. That's what I mean by holding space. Autonomy, joyful. I see a lot of joyful in here. This is amazing. Reassurance. Yes, humanity, joy, strong, at peace. Yes, confident, awesome. All of these are amazing, just sort of key words that I wish I could have bubbling around me all the time and just grab one from time to time. Shining, all of these, community, calm, yes, confident, liberating, so true. Why can't we have this? Right? There are ways. And so I want to remind folks that this is a workshop that is not about toolkit, check the box, but is instead about reclaiming who we are, the competency, the nurturing, the liberation, the confidence, the shining, the calm, the joy, all of that, and bringing it into the classroom space. Because a lot of us, certainly through our careers as educators, but then especially once we went online, and the mandates and the pressure from our institutions, get them to get the work done. Productivity, productivity, productivity. Be the best teacher. Get those students in, grade them harder because they're at home. All of those, like, opposite of all these beautiful words in the chat, right? But we know that students learn better and we teach better when we feel all of these things. That's what this workshop is about. Just letting those of you know who need this reminding. Si se puede, it's true. We can have all of this. So I put that link back in the chat again. I'll do it one more time for folks in case you need to. This is our community board. We are creating community here. The question I had for you, what is your cultural superpower, or your pedagogical superpower? Can some people, would you be willing to share some of that in the chat? What did you decide yours was? A couple of words. What's your pedagogical superpower? Authenticity, kindness, energy, I guess energy. Active, deep listening, nice. Empathy, organization. Look at all these. Incredible. Connecting with people in any modality. That's what I'm talking about. Constant push for improvement. Yes. Reading the room and adapting. So much. Empowering students. Non-judgmental. I'm reading it quickly, sorry, but honesty and patience. Oh, I love this. Love this. Showing vulnerability, putting students at ease, asking questions. These are our superpowers, and we take them everywhere we go. Everybody is included, asking questions. And you know, we were, it's silliness, I like that. Yeah, superpower, immunity to exhaustion. Ooh, I want that one. You know, we were teaching, not only were we going online, you know, in March, and then we had all this uprising, unrest. So much was going on in 2020. So much was going on in 2020, friends. And this was not, you know, we didn't really have a lot of space for these feelings. There was a lot that was coming up. So how do we keep these things going in, as somebody wrote, any modality? And a lot of it is I mean, one of the things that came to the fore, thankfully, during all of the protests and unrest was the need for community. No matter what your background was, no matter what your political beliefs, all that mattered was that you knew who your people were and that you felt safe and calm and able to engage in discussion about what were very upsetting issues and continue to be. How do we continue to make a community strong? And I have always felt, and I'm sure you do as veteran educators, that this is possible and also necessary for us to be understanding. As any Zoom meeting or context we enter into, that's a community. Even if it's just for a half an hour meeting, that's a community. A quarter long or a semester long class is a community. Doesn't matter if nobody ever turns their cameras on, if people have very varied and very diverse ways of learning, if they are coming from different contexts. I had some students who were joining from their parents' vacation home in Spain. And I had students whose backs were against the refrigerator because their siblings and their kids had moved home to their parents' one-bedroom apartment, and they had no other place to be except against the fridge, and they couldn't turn their cameras on, and they didn't have their own designated study space. Very diverse learning environments. Every person in that Zoom room is part of the same community. When we build that community up, it means that we can all share in the learning experience together and understand that this is an experience, first of all, of mutuality, share, concern, all of those things that people have mentioned here in the chat. This is why this is a co-learning environment. So just drawing your attention to the Google Doc, and somebody had asked me earlier if I would share the screen. I'd be happy to do that. Sometimes, you know, I've learned, especially in the last year. Can people see this okay? Okay, so this is our shared screen here, is our Google document. So we mingled, we talked about our pedagogical superpower, and we shared in the chat. So I wanted to just talk about community for a second. And I just put here something that I brought together from a lot of different sources about community. People who are educators, people who are organizers. Community connects us with each other. It describes, it evokes a common experience that is both a feeling and a set of relationships among people. So we know, for example, we don't need a brick and mortar place to have community. If anything has happened over these past 16, 18 months, we know this to be true. People form and maintain communities to meet common needs. A lot of times when we step into a classroom space, we don't ask that question. What is the common need here? It's not just we all need to learn organic chemistry. It's something else. What do we need in order to be successful? Many describe this as a space, community, as a space where people have a mutual sense of trust, belonging, safety, and caring for each other. I'm going to just repeat that. A space where people have a mutual sense of trust, belonging, safety, and caring for each other. Now, does that mean that we need to spend the first 4 weeks on getting to know each other? No, but it does mean sometimes that a list of shared agreements, not just rules for the classroom, but shared agreements, inviting people to add to them, even after the first class has ended, and making this maybe an assignment for the class to come up with by the second class is the shared agreements for the class. Again, even if it's not a humanities or social sciences course where you're talking about contemporary issues, but a STEM course where this acknowledges so many different forms of learning. Finally, there's an individual and collective sense that students can, as part of that community, influence their environments and each other. We all, no matter what we're teaching, want to be able to step out of a classroom, no matter what students are learning, to be able to step out of a classroom and bring something with them. That is kind of our collective pedagogical superpower, is to have lasting impact and effect. So if that's the case, and we can create community in our classrooms, and we can feel like we're a meaningful facilitator and guide for that, I want to ask you another question for the chat, which is, what is needed to create a sense of community in an online classroom or a hybrid space? And I'm going to stop my share for the moment because I want to be able to see this. What do you feel are the most important things to create a community? Openness and flexibility. Yes, please. Authenticity, a little effort on our part. Isn't that the truth? Safety, respect. Ooh, targeted universalism. I'm going to save that link. Thank you. Empathy, one-on-one meetings. Interesting. Yes. High energy. Yes. Yes. Spaces to share, positive instructor presence. Yes. I want to thank you, and please continue to share. Because it's kind of like dovetails nicely into what I was going to say. You know, some of us are introverts and some of us are extroverts and some of us are somewhere in between, right? And I am an introvert, but I can put it on for, you know, my students. I can put that that kind of a performance for a lot of us, it is. And so what do we need to do that? A lot of times folks think, well, but I'm an introvert, that's not me. I'm not here to be a show. I'm not charismatic like a lot of students want us to be. I teach, I'm good at it, and that's that. And this is why a lot of times when you have a community board, like I put here in our chat, but also when you have an environment where you share community agreements, you don't have to do all that work of the extra, the being the cool and charismatic professor. You are just thinking in a conscious way, conscious alignment with what students need, but also, and most especially important, conscious alignment with what you need to affect the most amazing space that you can walk away from at the end of a term and feel like we did something there. Look at these wonderful things: gentle structures to guide trust, flexibility to create space, not either or, both and experiences. Absolutely, we call that a both and holding paradox. Willingness to engage, enthusiasm. And again, for those people who are not, or feeling like, well, but I'm not that person, but we don't, there's not one size fits all on this stuff. You don't have to be somebody you're not. In fact, we find that students get the most out of someone who is, as people have mentioned here, authentic, has the integrity about, and confidence in our own leadership. And this was my next point, is leadership in the classroom. That's who we are. We're leaders in many respects. People look at us, whether we like it or not. Even these young folks who are like, we don't need anything from the older generation. What is it that you all have to offer? They still look to us as leaders in the classroom. And that doesn't take a seminar in leadership for us to be able to feel effective in this. What it takes is for us to have a recognition of what the space is. And that always is predicated on reflection. So sometimes we don't get enough time, and we don't ask ourselves, back to this question, what is needed for success to manifest here? And a lot of times that's us saying, what I need is this. What I need to provide these things is this. So again, inviting you to look at the community board. And I want to share with you my basics for, kind of online success, but also just, as I said, holding the space, creating as much power, calm, and openness when I teach a course. Shared agreements that are reinforced over assignments, conversation, and engagement. So when I asked you all, what is your pedagogical superpower? This was one of the ways that I was trying to reinforce the shared agreements, is to everybody mutually learn, to share, to think, oh, this is my pedagogical superpower, but listen to what this person just shared. Maybe I have that too, or that would be an interesting thing to pursue. I want my students to have that all the time. So this is why sometimes I ask them very simple, kind of yummy questions. Somebody answered it earlier in the chat with the banana. What did you have for breakfast this morning? And if you didn't have breakfast, how are you going to take care of yourselves for the rest of the day so that you feel nourished, sustained? Thinking of silly questions, because somebody said, I need silliness in the classroom. Think of a silly question and ask them. So that's one of my basics, is that I reinforce those shared agreements over assignments, conversation, engagement. Managing my online presence. Now I've already kind of started talking about this, is like, what if your temperament is not one where you come into it like the Dalai Lama, where you're like, inspiring everybody to feel grounded and present. Maybe you're more like, there's room for everybody in this kind of environment, right? And it can be, in the fact that you're here doing this work means that you're supposed to be here doing this work. That fundamental belief that I am here, I have something to offer. And many of us, again, these are the very basic things that we're trying to impart to the students, but we need that too. We need that self-talk, and we need that mutual respect and honor and community, right? So do you have a check-in partner? Do you have a little teaching buddy where it's a no judgment, no workspace, where you show up every Thursday, Friday night with a quick 40-minute cocktail or a coffee or something? How did it go this week teaching? Anybody have any good ideas? That kind of thing. Sometimes we need community because sometimes it can be very isolating. So the other one is, as I said, setting the container. This is a powerful thing. We go in often with very little time and a whole lot of stuff to do, right? And we set that tone for our students. come in, work, get it done, grade, 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 right? But again, students don't learn very well when they're bombarded. We don't learn well, we don't teach well when we're bombarded or when we're throwing bombardments. Now I'm seeing that some people are having issues with sound, so hopefully we can resolve that. But I want to, let's keep going here. So quality discussions, and this requires some imagination, friends, it really does. Because a lot of times we think, well, it has to pertain exactly to what I'm talking about today. It must be on this element of the table. You know, you can tell I'm not in the sciences, but or it has to be on this particular thing. But what if it's a question that is expansive? Like the one I asked you is like, what would it feel like to step into a space and be free of anxiety about online learning? Like, what would it, and then having those feelings instead percolate with students. What if I asked you, what does success look like for you all? We're not going to talk about the grade at the end of the semester. What does success look like for you all in online learning? It's an open question. It's a powerful question. It allows for self-agency and direction. What does success look like? A lot of people will go straight to, it looks like an A. No, I'm asking, in our mutual learning community, what does success look like for you? And asking those powerful questions, but also, what do you need? A lot of, again, I asked this question earlier, I shared with you, I need water, I need good circulation, I need my child not to be running around behind me. But also, I need people who are invested in my success. I need people who believe that I belong here and that I can learn and I have the same shot as everybody else. And that I'm smart enough to be here. This is what we try to do for our students all the time, but without explicitly stating it. And so what would happen if we explicitly stated it? I am invested in your success. I want everybody to know that today we're all here. We all have the same opportunity. And I'm working to make sure that everybody does have that same opportunity. Let me know how I can be helpful and of service to you. That has nothing to do with the subject matter, but it has everything to do with how well they do with it, right? So finally, reflection and clarity about what I can do and what I can't do. Protection of my time and conserving my energy. And in other words, good boundaries around what I can do. Some people put in here, high engagement with students, consistent office hours. Some of us can't do that. So what can I do, actually? You know, I can answer emails, I can encourage students. Sometimes I'm sure some of you all have done this as well, where you send out a sort of weekly inspirational quote or start the day with an inspirational quote. And it could be about anything, but that makes them feel calm, grounded in the space and encouraged, inspired. It comes back to, again, that leadership, that kind of, and I use this word in the best sense, the moral leadership that we need to be in the classroom and in front of it and holding the space for mutual learners. Modeling the kind of human being, but also the kind of human presence that we want in the classroom. So an inspiring quote, something that helps them feel excited about being in what is often a very challenging space. And what I can't do, I noticed that I have a hard time with meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. So that means I need office hours on 2 different days. And that means that I use an online scheduling tool, Calendly, where people don't already know that. I put that in the chat, and if somebody has a link, feel free to share it. Well, I like what Patrice said too. You should make everything you teach relevant. Why do I need to know this is a must? We live in the age of Google. Looking up the info is no good if they don't know how to evaluate the information. That's right. And even if they get the information and analyze it, if they don't feel calm and open to it, they can't learn from it, right? So Calendly I use because I can schedule students 15 minutes at a time for office hours. I often have really big classes, and each link to each 15 minutes has its own designated link. Students show up, they don't show up, it's okay. I'm there for 5 minutes. I don't get mad you didn't come. I just log off. I'll see you next time, you know? And those are sort of energetic boundaries that I have. That's what I can do. I can organize my time in such a way that allows me to protect and conserve my energy as much as possible, because I'm not someone who is incredibly tech savvy and who has all these incredible imaginative things and online tools for folks, but I do have a knack at making people feel encouraged and inspired, students to be online. So I try to protect and conserve that energy as much as possible by doing the things that affect that magic. And then the rest follows, it really does. So, and then finally, I try to make available resources. I can't be all things to all people. I know all of us have been asked to do that and on many levels, but I can be very kind of thoughtful. If I see something, I happen to see something over the week that I think would be an interesting resource based on the presence that I'm trying to cultivate in the classroom, I'll send it out to my students so that it's not this big task where I have this master sheet. Some people are great at that, but where I'm saying, hey, I'm consistently thinking of you all. I'm sending these things out to create, again, the environment where people can come in, make mistakes, be vulnerable, but also feel strong, calm, and present and open to whatever comes up that day. So I want to invite people to share their resources, and I'm going to just take about 4 more minutes here to talk a little bit more now. If people have shared a lot of resources there in the chat, I really want to encourage you to share them in the Google Doc, because this Google Doc, this community board, you can come back to in perpetuity. It is yours. And then they'll all be here. And in fact, after this session, if you remember something, oh, I have this incredible toolkit. I have this amazing way to make a welcome video. I have this incredible strategy for doing online lectures. Put it all here, please, because these are our colleagues. This is our community, and we share these resources. So put it here, because we need to be able to have these things. And feel free to make this community board our community. So here are under part 4 tools. I have community share, and I just put 5 things here. There are so many more, but I thought let's keep it as simple as possible. Welcoming students. These are just kind of suggestions, things I do now, and I'm sure that you all probably have better ideas. Does anybody want to share in the chat or on the community board? Maybe just a sentence about how you welcome your students into class. How do you do it on the first day? How do you welcome them in? Something that you've done that's been effective. Stand at the door and smile. I love that. Yes. Share a story. Me too. Used to shake their hands. Yeah. I know, it's so sad. Interactive to get to know me. Very nice. I'm interested in that. Yes. Oh, storytelling and singing. Yes. A welcome video. Very powerful. Very nice. Look at all these resources, my friends. Chris, maybe we can save the chat and send it to everybody. I think that would be
definitely.
Okay. Personal story of my university experience. I use that all the time, because the minute students come into a classroom, you know they're looking at you and saying, what part of me is reflected in you? That's all the time. Where can I connect with you? 10 things about me video presentation. Ooh, fancy, Janae. Ask a name, where they're from, what color they like, what candy they like. I love that. Games to introduce themselves or each other. These are all beautiful, beautiful. And so you see, I don't need to tell, because all the information that we need is here in our community. And that's how I feel about the classroom as well. Everything we need to know. Now, there are things that, of course, we've been paid to study and teach, and they don't know. But everything we need in order to learn as mutual learners is already in the classroom. And that's the most powerful thing. We have everything we need in order to make a powerful community. Managing your online presence, again, the question of what do I need to step into a classroom feeling free of the anxiety of the hybrid or online learning, and managing that. Take some time for that, because it lasts the whole term. Coming in, setting the tone like that for yourself and for others. And so much of this is about felt meaning. Ask if a hot dog is a sandwich. I love that. And then I think the other ones speak for themselves in large part. I put here at the end just a couple of resources for folks if you want to just take, again, share places that you found are important for strategies for online learning. I've learned so much here. The 10 things about me, I love that. And that's an asynchronous video. You can do that on your phone. But if you don't feel that that's something that you can do, because some of us are not that savvy, then you can do it online, you can do it in person. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone. And I know we still have 10 minutes. So I want to ask folks if you have any questions. Like, I have this one class and it's giving me trouble. I'm trying to figure this out conceptually so that we can group think here. Does anyone have any concerns or questions about your own classes? Don't be shy. How to handle large groups like more than 50. Okay, Anna, thank you so much for that. I want to ask you, can I ask you how, if you could get a little more specific? Do you mean activities? Can you, if you can you unmute yourself and let us know? Anna, are you shy? It's okay. Okay, how to handle large groups like more than 50. Do other people have this question as well? I teach really big classes. I've done like a 350, 400, even bigger online. And how do I handle it? Friends, we have 211 people in this class right now, in this community right now. How do I handle it? I try to make it as small as possible. I try to engage like it's you and me right here in this room together. I try to talk and like walk in the same pace as other folks, but I also try to set a bit of a pace. And that does require a little reflection at the start. Before I got online today, I did a little Qigong move where I like took a really deep breath and I raised my hands above my head and then I pulled the energy down a little bit. And then I felt much more grounded and ready to start. That's my way of kind of getting in. Big groups are sometimes intimidating, especially when folks are like off camera and you're speaking into the ether. Try to make it small. Community board is one way. And let me tell you, is that there's a lot of people who are doing 100 other things right now, have their cameras off, might be listening. They're gonna catch one phrase. Believe that you're gonna have an impact. That's really the way to make the big group small. How do you persuade other faculty members who teach the same class but are not willing to do active learning pedagogy? Oh, honey, I understand that, Dr. Horton, very, very, very much. That resonates powerfully with me. The way I do it is I try to come back to the reflection of why I'm here as an educator. And I had to ask myself this question, especially in 2016, when a certain so-and-so was elected that I had a really hard time with, because in my classes, I had a lot of undocumented folks and I have a lot of Black folks and I have a lot of people who are directly impacted. Everybody was directly impacted, good and bad. But I had to really ask myself, what is my role here? My role is to be an educator, to have as high of a moral and inspirational impact. And so I ended up having to have the faith that no matter what other people were doing, I was going to be about my business. That's how I do it. So I hope to share with folks. If they take it up, wonderful, great. If they don't, teaching the same class, I got my students. This is our business and our community here. I know it's more complicated than that, believe me, because I have some complicated and very human colleagues. So I'm not trying to be dismissive, just putting that out there. Well, I like the clicking your fingers together to hype up. That's great. There's a lot of really great things to learn from people who do theater. And they've all transitioned to online. So there's a lot of things you can do. Asking people to change their backgrounds to their favorite color. Asking people to that really incredible concept that you just learned right now. It could be an economics, anything. Strike a pose and show me what that looks like with your body. So folks, let's see, we have Tracy, you said you teach one course to online healthcare students through the pandemic. You struggled to have the best consult students virtually. They were stressed and crying. I got a lot of that too. You know, how much it helps when people just tell you, hey, I see you. I see you. I just want to know, I want you to know that I'm thinking of you, and I'll be thinking of you. I'll see you. And because we feel so powerless. They're not in our office. We can't hold their hand. We can't hand them a Kleenex. I see you. How are you doing today? Like truly, you can answer that to yourself, or, you know. I also assigned throughout the quarter, they had a check-in group together that was not, was about the readings and all that, but it was just a check-in, like check in, how are you doing? And they had to meet once a week, even if it's for 15 minutes. I see other folks, yes, compassion fatigue is a real problem for us. Again, shoring up those energetic boundaries. And sometimes visualization can help that as well. If you come into a space, like I said, I have a move, what's gonna be your stand? You might wanna ask yourself that. What is something you can do every time you enter into a space? Because part of what makes this hit really well or not is the energy. And even though I'm so far away from some of you, or from outside of the US, we're sharing something here. And the way that's shared is through our energy. So how do you make that energetic boundary? I've heard some people say, imagine that you're inside of a beautiful glycerin bubble and you're floating on the ocean, and everybody has their own energy. You can see them and they can see you, you can hear them, you know, all of that, but everybody has their own energy so that you don't absorb all of that stuff, and you're also not giving and offloading a lot of it. So you're here, you're sharing, you're in community, but everybody's got their own thing. If you share your "you saved my life" or aha moment concept with stories with other faculty members, they'll ask you, how did you do it? And it will be an in to discuss active methods. Yes, absolutely. These are all amazing suggestions. Whole brain teaching, someone says here. So I'm gonna just wrap up, but I wanna tell you something like from the heart, that I'm so grateful that you all came here. I really truly believe that we're all meant to be in this space together, all 213 of us, that whoever was meant to be here is here, that whatever you got in those small breakout rooms about cultural and pedagogical superpowers was meant for you to hear and meant for you to share. And so I look at this as a very precious opportunity that we had to come together. I feel all of the expertise that you all have, that you shared in this chat. I can't wait to go back through it. But more than anything, I just want to express my gratitude to you as my fellow educators for what you did to get online and to do the best you could to take care of your students and each other. What we've done as educators is monumental. And I just want to tell you all that from one educator to another, I see you, I thank you, I'm grateful to you. And I'm really, really grateful also to all the folks at Course Hero who said, we need to figure out how to support these educators, not just because we're sharing documents and strategies and all of that, but because we're sharing a community and a way forward. So I just want to invite us all into that powerful stand, that we're making all kinds of difference and we're all going to be just fine, just great with what we already got. So blessings, everybody. Please be safe and well. And thank you so much. Please feel free to reach out if I can ever be of service to you. Thank you.